Hi everyone, good morning. So my name is Kalyani and I'm the founder and CEO of Kobalt Labs. The specific problem that we're solving is that it is extremely risky, expensive, and time-consuming to manually conduct third-party diligence properly, especially given all the recent consent orders in BAS and the guidelines recently for community banks and credit unions coming from the regulators. So we are an AI-powered co-pilot to automate and strengthen that third-party review for financial institutions, and this means modernizing your diligence on vendors and fintech partners. With that, let's dive straight into the demo and show you guys what we can do. So as I go through this, if you're a financial institution, I challenge you to think about how much time it would have taken to create the analysis that I'm about to output here. So let's pretend that we're conducting vendor or partner diligence on a third party. We're going to select Affirm as an example because my co-founder used to work there for many years. So the way it works is that we can essentially ingest any documentation from a third party and assess it against any financial regulation that exists in the entire world within minutes and raise all the potential gaps and conflicts that might put your organization at risk. So right now in this pre-selected demo environment, there are a couple categories of laws that we've preloaded here, but you can imagine that we support any publicly available regulation that exists. So we support things like securities, money movement, privacy, all of the above. So I'm going to pick a couple program types here to select, and what this does is under each category, there's a set of laws that apply to that bucket, and that's completely configurable to your team. We're going to upload a couple example documents to process through our system and figure out what the gaps and risks might be if we're working with this third party. So as you can see here, we've preloaded 4 kinds of documents that we might be able to upload. But again, we can take in any form of unstructured documentation, including more compliance documents or even deal documents, and we synchronize with the entire live internet too to pull negative news. So I'm going to upload a contract here, and I'm also going to upload a second document. Let's evaluate this vendor's AML policies and procedures. Now keep in mind that this document is over 80 pages long, and our tool is going to parse and analyze everything within minutes. So what's happening right now is our tool is currently ingesting everything in the contract, everything in the AML policies and procedures, and it's checking all of the contents against all of the regulations that apply under the BSA AML bucket, as well as ACH and some other privacy regulations. And we're also checking these contents against the policies and procedures of our own organization. So the analysis should be done by now. When I click Analyze, here is the high-level risk overview that we have created just based on the 1-minute analysis and the few documents we were able to upload. I'll go through a couple of these. So the first thing that we do is we do a quick legal sanity check where we immediately identify that in the contract uploaded, we're missing language around confidentiality, disclaimer of warranties, and dispute resolution. This just once again exemplifies how our AI tool is able to just accelerate your process of finding some needles in a haystack and making your whole process faster. As we can see here, when we raise risks, we essentially are doing a few things. Number one, we summarize the risk that we find. We also are able to calculate severity of the risk. This severity is calculated with a few things. Number one, we're looking at all recent enforcement actions from all financial regulatory bodies, and if there has been a recent enforcement action against a similar organization, that bumps up the severity. We're also looking at whether or not there's a potential issue that's just missing, whether it exists and it's just not explicit enough, or whether it exists and directly contradicts a law that you might need to abide by. So if we look at a few of these, let's look at a high severity one. It looks like in the uploaded documents, we can see that there are unclear timelines for acknowledging, investigating, and responding to consumer complaints. And we can see that this is high severity, and we cite a recent enforcement action according to that. If we look at some of the issues against the NACHA rules that we found, here, let's look at some of the highest severity ones. It looks like there's no explicit mention of the NACHA security requirements, which is an obvious issue that will need to be brought up with the vendor or third party. And it looks like we've also identified a lack of explicit requirements for regular audits. And so these are all things that we've been able to identify in the hundreds of pages that I just uploaded within a few minutes. In addition to this specific analysis, we also offer more end-to-end kind of functionality for your own review process. So if I pick the same vendor here, we see a couple things. Number one, we can see the history of all the previous analyses that were done. So over time, you can compare how the risk changed as more documents were uploaded and updated. We also have full document management, where we can see the entire history of all the different versions that were uploaded, compare the versions. This module isn't updated, or this module isn't visible in the demo environment, but we also allowed the vendors themselves to log in, communicate with your team in a time-stamped and auditable way, and directly upload their own additional documents and security answers in the platform itself, just to ease the entire process of communication. Lastly, we also have this free-form notes area where, again, in a time-stamped and auditable way, we allow your team to track exceptions about risks that they might be willing to take on, as well as trade notes with each other in case there are parts of the analysis that our tool didn't cover in scope. So a lot of our customers, especially the larger financial institutions, are using this to be able to easily display to regulators how they're able to do proper diligence on their third parties and track all of the risks that they're willing to take on, so that we make audit periods significantly faster and more friendly. So zooming back out, I just want to leave you with this. Right now, you are overexposed to risks, and manual processes aren't doing you any favors because they don't make it easy to show the regulators that you're doing what you have to do, and they're expensive if you're outsourcing to additional third parties or not investing in in-house efforts enough to cover your tracks. So we are at a booth at the expo, and I encourage all of you to come check us out. We're offering free trials where if you sign up, you can run any documentation you want in our platform for free, and we can show you what the outputs might be right in front of you and let you decide how well this works and how useful this can be for your team. Thank you very much.